Hey everybody, this is James and I'm back with another coin roll hunt of Canadian coins, but today we're going to do something a little bit different than I've done before. First of all, I haven't hunted toonies on my channel, so we have a box here of $1,000 in Canadian toonies, $2 coins. Before we get into that though, I want us to talk a little bit about this right here, because this is not a toonie. All right, we have 20 rolls of customer wrapped $2 Canadian coins. For my friends who are watching who are not Canadian, the toonie is what we call the $2 coin. And if you're wondering why we call it that, it's really because of this coin here. This is the Canadian $1 coin, affectionately known as the loonie, because of the bird that appears on the reverse. This is the common loon. And of course, when the $2 coin came out, Canadians, being the creative bunch that we are, decided that we should call this one the toonie. I mean, there were other ideas floated out there. It was maybe the doubloon or anything like that. This one features a polar bear, so the toonie doesn't really speak to that. But there you have it. That's what it is these days, the loonie and the toonie. But before we get going, I started off by saying I wanted to talk about this coin here, and I said that this is not a toonie, and that is true. What we have here is a counterfeit $2 coin. I received this in change at a retail establishment just yesterday. At the time of filming, I was just in a store, which made me want to hunt toonies to talk about this. This is known as, colloquially, as a camel toe toonie. And the reason for that is if I get close enough in, the toe or the foot of this polar bear really appears to be much like a cloven hoof, like you might see on a camel. I'll throw it under the scope so you can get a closer look at it. That's it up close. It really doesn't look much at all like a toonie. There are really two tells on this coin. These are very high quality fakes, right? There's a fair amount of detail on here. That polar bear, the water and the ice, the land. The two tells that I would point out are the foot has this hoof or camel toe kind of look. And these lines over here that kind of form like a Z or a Z aren't typical. And I'll just throw a real toonie under here, and you can see that the toe or the foot doesn't quite have that divide like it does. And then on the left-hand side, you don't see that Z mark. It's a little bit more, it's a little bit less distinguished there. And there's actually not necessarily as much detail on the polar bear itself. So one more time, I'll just show you the camel toe or the lack of camel toe on a real one. And then on this fake one, you can see it's a little less subtle. So this one caught my eye right away because I could tell just by the silver parts of it, this is a bimetallic coin with two different types of metal, that it looked really new. And yet the inside, which would be copper coating, should be nice and bright, or a brass coating perhaps, didn't have the bright sort of gold color that it normally has. But look at how significantly, I guess, good this is. It's got the edge serrations like we see on Canadian toonies. The lettering on this one is very similar. It looks really well struck. I can tell you that these are getting better. Early versions of this, the maple leaf was distorted and didn't look real. That one looks pretty real. There are other years and versions of the toonie that have been counterfeited. The 2005, the 2006, the 2002. Mostly coins that would have appeared without the modern security features, which you can see on this toonie. Just like almost like laser etched, right? So you can see the maple leaf sort of as the light hits it a bit differently. That would be incredibly difficult to counterfeit. There's also a lot less detail on the queen. So this is the real one. There's more detail in the hair. And if you look at this version here, It's similar, but a bit flatter. There's not quite as much detail, but these are high quality. I don't think anybody would have noticed. I just thought it was a newer coin with some odd coloring, and I look at coins all the time. I wouldn't be surprised if 99% of people would just put this in their pocket, pay for something, and it would just circulate and circulate. So in this box of Toonies, of course, what we're wanting to look for is, are we going to find any color variations? There are some low mintage Toonies. There are, we might find some foreigns. We're not going to find any silver in here, of course, unless it's a foreign that somehow got in there. But there's lots of variety to look for. There are lots of commemorative coins. So we're also going to look for any that are in really good shape. This one, you can see the center planchet is already sort of faded in color. So we want to find the bright, bright, shiny ones. I'll point some of those out. And of course, we might find ourselves some of these. I was wondering when I might first see one, and I finally found one. So it's possible that they might be, there might be one or two in here we don't know. These came right from the bank. These two are bank wrapped rolls. The rest are customer wrapped. So we'll see what we find when we get into the rolls. And just before we go any further, if you want to learn more about these so-called camel toe Toonies and the history of counterfeiting the $2 Canadian coin, you can go to cameltoetoonies.ca, and Toonies is Toonies. So coin collector Brent Mackey, I need to commend him for his phenomenal work. His website, Camel Toe Toonies, is a great wealth of information on these counterfeit Toonies. He has all sorts of information on here, photos and such, on the different variations that he's come across. I'll just click a link here. You can see there's all sorts of images here to show you the differences between the real ones and the fake ones, how to spot them, and different versions that have been documented. So check this out, cameltoetoonies.ca. I'll put a link to Brent's website on the description here. It's cameltoetoonies.ca, of course, and you can find all sorts of great information on counterfeit $2 coins in Canada. All right, enough said. We're going to crack into some rolls here. Roll number one. Here we go. Right off the bat, I've got a 2012 here, and this is one of the ones I want to look for because this was a transition year. This one here, you can see that there's those security markings I mentioned earlier with the laser etching. You can see the maple leaf in the top and in the bottom here. In 2012, the mint minted one version that didn't have the security features, just like we saw in older years. So just like this one I have here. So it would look very much like this one here that's pretty worn and older. This is a 2001. That was only minted at about 1.5 pieces. The one with the security features is very common. It's minted at about 86 million. So it's far more rare. And I haven't actually found one in the wild, but maybe today's the day. That's what you got to say when you're coin roll hunting. Okay, we are still in the first roll, and I found what I thought was maybe a proof. You can see there's like frosting on this bear here, and this is incredible. I flip it over, and this is a 1999 with the polar bear. So 1999, they had a commemorative toonie, but there was no $2 coin issued for circulation. This was only in sets. The mintage of this is only 117,318. Obviously, this has been circulating. You can see it's got a fair amount of wear, but this is incredibly rare. This is like, I didn't even know. I just had to look it up to actually find out what it was, if it was a proof. This is an exceptionally rare Canadian coin. This is probably the most rare toonie that we could find, and we found it right now, which is awesome. I've just got roll number 2 here laid out in my hand, and you can see that the coins, some of them, the newer ones, have edge lettering. They'll say Canada, $2, and you'll see that they all have an edge serration on it. But this gives us some of the varieties that we can actually find. So first of all, any of the coin with the edge lettering could have 2 different orientations. So the edge lettering was just put on the coin regardless of which way it was oriented. So there's sort of an A orientation and a B orientation on many of these. So, and the A orientation is if the inscription on the edge is aligned with the obverse, and the B is if it's aligned with the reverse. So if you really want to get into technical details in your collection, you could look for both the A and the B orientation. The other one is around these edge serrations, and most years there might be 16 serrations, these little grooves along the edge. In some years, there's a variation in how many serrations there are. So for instance, the 2010, normally speaking, would have 16 serrations, but there's a variation that has 14 serrations. So when you get a 2010, and if we find any, we'll do that, we're going to count and look to see, is it the 16 common version or the 14 rare version? Well, it didn't take us long to find a 2010. We have one here, not in the best of shape, but this one I counted and it has the 16 serrations. So I already have this one. I'm going to be looking for the one with the 14 serrations. That is far harder to find. I got a pretty scratched up 1996 here. This is the first year of the toonie, and there are several really interesting variations on this one. So there's one where there's no ice that's visible right where my thumb is between the paws or the arms of the bear. There's another really cool one that there's a die cud or something that makes it look like he's smoking a cigar. There's another one where it looks like he has a horn. So you kind of want to look out for all of these. And there's another one that's very valuable that was struck on a different planchet, on a German planchet, and it has a different coloration, although I just don't know if in this kind of condition after this long it's easy enough to tell. You might have to have one that is in pretty uncirculated condition to be able to see the difference in the coloring. But I look for the ones that are really obvious, the no ice, the cigar, the horn, on all of these to see if I can find any of those. Roll number 3, when we found our first commemorative, it's a 2015 commemorating Sir John Macdonald, Canada's first Prime Minister. And it's not in great shape, but I'll set it aside at the top here. A little bit aside from our 1999, which is just phenomenal. I can't even believe that we found that. But we'll see if we find another one that's in better shape for the collection, because I don't think I have that one. So we'll keep on looking through these guys and I'll let you know when I find something. Now what I've got here is the circulating toonie from 1999 commemorating the creation of the Canadian territory Nunavut. And you can see, so the obverse is very similar to the one we found, but the reverse has a very different design and obviously not the polar bear. All right, I just opened up roll number 4 and I can see our ender here is very definitely counterfeit. The other side looks like a legit 1996. But we have found a counterfeit toonie. Okay, so just getting a closer look at it, you can see that camel toe on there, and you can tell this is new, right? Like this doesn't have any scratches on it. It's the color in the middle is kind of looks like what an older one would be. And when I flip this one over, it tells us it's a 1996, but the queen doesn't have nearly as much detail. You can see how that maple leaf is kind of distorted. So there's our maple leaf on our counterfeit toonie, and here is the maple leaf on a legitimate 1996. You can see this one looks very different, but these are pretty high quality. If you had these things side by side, you're just not necessarily gonna know. And yeah, you can see the queen there. Like for most people, they're going to look at that and I think it looks pretty legit. It's really remarkable and alarming at the same time. Same roll, very next coin actually. We got ourselves a 2020 commemorative. Bill Reed is an Indigenous artist, so this was just highlighting his art. And this one looks to be in really great shape. That's a keeper for sure. It's going to go on the board with our 99 and our faker right there. Same roll, and we found the newest commemorative. It's 2021 commemorating the discovery of insulin. There's a colorized version of this. I don't have either of them yet, so this is definitely a keeper for the collection. Got a few little scratches on it. We'll see if we find any more. That's fantastic. So we'll put that over here as well, and we'll keep on hunting. I have a 2000 under the scope here. This one was different. This one featured 3 polar bears and not just the one. There is an NIFC version of just the single polar bear like the 99 we found. There is a minor variation you can find of this one. It's called the Pedestal Zero, which basically has a die chip. Looks like it's holding up the zero in the corner, is one that I always look for. So Lots of cool things to find in Toonies for sure. Same roll, and we found our second colorized. It is a D-Day from 2019, and it's in some circulated shape, but that's a good one for the board. We'll put it up there with our 2020 Bill Reed. The 2002 commemorates the 50th anniversary of Queen Elizabeth's reign, and there's also a variation that you can find on this one, and that is that on the legend on the obverse, there is a version that has a dot squarely right in the bottom of the H here, and that is one I haven't found yet, but it's fairly common. Roll number 3, and we found a beautiful 2005, and I almost thought that it was a counterfeit because of how new and good it looked, but it is just a really great looking 2005. I'm going to put it on the board. It is not counterfeit. I checked all the markers. It all looks good. But yeah, that's a pretty good pickup. And actually right behind it, we have another low mintage commemorative. This is the 2018 Armistice coin. It's also in really great shape. This one is not the colorized version, but there is a colorized version of this. But that is also a great pickup for the board. Same roll, and we got us the non-color version of the D-Day commemorative. Many Canadian commemorative coins are really focused around Remembrance Day, which is November the 11th in Canada. And so this one is no different. This one is called Wait For Me Daddy from 2014. Basically, a soldier going off to war, and you can see his family sort of behind him there as they're all heading out. So this is another one. I'll check it against what I have. It's in fairly circulated condition, but it might be an upgrade for me. I never used to collect Toonies, so it's fairly new for me. So I don't have a lot where the copper in the middle is nice and bright. So this might be better than what I've got, but it's not the best, of course. And speaking of the copper core, in 1996, when this coin came out, there were all sorts of reports that these things would just fall apart. People were apparently quite concerned that the copper core was just going to come right out of the nickel edge. These things have ended up being exceptionally durable, and it's just not common. There are things that you can do, like high school science experiments, where you can change the temperature of the coin, so that they'll come out and things like that. But for the most part, these things stay together pretty well. I just opened roll number 10, and this is the end coin, another commemorative. Unfortunately, it's in really great shape. Unfortunately, it's got a bit of the ring of death you can see on there. This is commemorating the 400th anniversary of the founding of Quebec City, but in pretty decent shape. So I'll put it on the board and I'll look and see. It may still even upgrade if I even have this one. I'm not even certain. Well, here's a 1996 in the same row that has definitely seen better days. Let me know what you think is happening with this one in the comments. It kind of looks like somebody's treated it with something to strip off maybe the outer layer. These are a multi-layer plated steel, the newer ones. Actually, this is a 1996. That would be nickel and copper. So I don't know. I'll put it on the board as a kind of an interesting find, and we'll keep on hunting. Well, same roll, and we have found another counterfeit. You can see the camel toe on this one. It has that suspect look. It's a 2006. And you can see the queen just looks a little bit off, but these are so good. The common, average, ordinary person will be really hard-pressed to know the difference. So it's on our board. It's our second counterfeit of this hunt, 2 different years, and on top of the one I got in change yesterday. So it looks like this could be a bit of a problem in Canada. And problem indeed. Here's just a couple coins later. This is another one for sure. It's another 2006. So we certainly don't want to find too many of these when we're paying $2 a piece for them. So I'll add it over to our finds, and we'll keep going. And, I'm interested enough to find them. I'm kind of interested to find one of each variety that's out there, but I don't want to be stuck buying $1,000 worth of Toonies and having, $100 worth of fakes that I can't do anything with, obviously. Roll number 11, we found a 2015 commemorative of John McCrae's writing of the poem In Flanders Fields, which would be well known by school children, all about Flanders in France, where the poppies were growing, where the graves of soldiers were dug. And so we'll add that to the board. I already have this one. This one's not as rare as many of the other commemoratives. It's minted at 12.5 million. A lot of the other ones are minted maybe about 5 million or 2 million or even 1 million in some cases for the more recent stuff. Roll number 12, and we found ourselves a 2017 Vimy Ridge Commemorative. And again, it's been circulated, but I'll look and see if this upgrades the one that I have. As I said, I haven't been collecting Toonies for very long, so I wasn't getting these when they were fresh from the mint. Roll number 13, and we have found the non-color version of the Bill Reed commemorative. So we've got both of them, which is pretty awesome. Roll number 14, and we have found ourselves a variety that is recognized in the Charlton Coin Guide. And when I put this 2000 under the scope, I mentioned it earlier, it's the Pedestal Zero, and it's got this little die chip. It makes it look like almost like a Q or something like that. And the other ones are, there's like a Pedestal C or a Pedestal A or a D. There's ones where there's die chips below the letters, but we have found ourselves one of these error coins, which is pretty awesome. Well, here's another interesting and strange find in the same roll. Somebody has sanded down the middle of this coin on both sides, or they tried to anyway. I guess people get bored and do weird stuff. Roll number 16, and we got ourselves another 2021 Insulin Commemorative to add to our board. Same roll, and we got ourselves a few good finds here, because here's another one of the John McCrae Reading and Flanders Fields, but in really gorgeous condition. So that's definitely one for the collection. And then right behind it is a 2020 Victory Commemorative. This comes in a colored version as well, but the non-colored version that I have in my hand is the more rare. It's only minted at 1 million. I think it's 2 million for the colored version. So that's a keeper no matter what. And I can see another one in here, the HMS Shannon. So 2012, pretty circulated, pretty dull. There are different versions of this one with different numbers of sails and things like that. I'll have a closer look and see if it's one of the variations, but we'll add it to the board for now. Roll 17, we found our third Insulin Commemorative. Still not the colored version. We've got a few more rolls to go, and I'm really hoping we can find it because I don't have it yet. End of that roll, and we have found ourselves another 2005 Counterfeit Toonie. They're getting easier to spot now for me. You can see that camel toe there. Throw it under the scope again so we can get a really close look at that. That's not the way it's supposed to look. And we'll look at the queen, where there's just not a lot of detail in the hair. And, but yeah, I mean, it's still remarkable just how good these fakes are. Roll 18, we get ourselves another low mintage 2020 Victory coin. Same roll, and we found the 2011 Boreal Forest. This is minted at just 5 million. This one's been circulated a bit. It's got some scratches on it, but this is a great find for the board and for the collection. Same roll, and we got ourselves another counterfeit. This time it's a 1996, and you can see that the maple leaf is all kind of askew at the top. You can see that distinctive camel toe. So yeah, that is our fifth of this box. That's $10 right there. We are just over halfway through our last roll, roll number 20, and we're going to have another one here. And it is another 2021 Insulin. This is actually the fifth one we found in this roll, and they're all in great shape, and they're all keepers, but none of them have the color, and our chances are getting slimmer that we're going to find one here. If I don't find anything in the rest of this roll, I'll bring you back in for a wrap-up, and we'll see how we made out. All right, that hunt is done. We've gone through $1,000 of Canadian $2 Toonie coins. And it was a productive hunt, an interesting hunt for sure on a number of different fronts. I'll give you the wrap-up, and you can see the board here with lots of good stuff. We only found 2 color coins, and that was the 2020 Bill Reed and the 2019 D-Day. We also found the non-color versions of both of those, which was great. We found a couple of the low mintage non-color Victory coins from 2020. So they're minted at just $1 million. We got 5 of the 2021 Insulin non-colored, and they are also the scarce variety. They're only minted at $1 million. The color version, which I have yet to find, is minted at $2 million. So it is twice as easy to find. Maybe not quite so, because people might be more likely to pull them out. I got a couple of really nice Polar Bear 2021s that I didn't have yet. We found some other good commemorative coins. We've got the Armistice, the Vimy, a really nice one with John McCrae writing in Flanders Fields. Like, that's a keeper for sure. A few others that aren't in as great shape, but I don't have. Yeah, there's a few here. We found a really nice 2005, but it's got some kind of effect on the front here, where it's got, you can see how beautiful the nickel part is, but there's some environmental damage on the copper part. You can see it's kind of affected in some way, but we'll take a look and see if it's any better than the one that I have. Our best finds of the hunt. So one is that we just found this 2000 pedestal 0. It's basically got a die chip on the 0, and you can even see it with the naked eye there on the last 0. Our absolute best find of the hunt is this 1999, not intended for circulation, only in sets, with the polar bear. You can see it's kind of got a frosted appearance and a mirror finish, though it's heavily circulated. You can see that's affected the gloss mirrored finish on it, but this is a rarity for sure. But perhaps our most interesting and perhaps most alarming finds is that we found 5 counterfeit toonies. 2 1996s, a 2005, and a 2006. And I've got the original versions, real legitimate versions. You can see the coloring is different for sure. And I thought maybe what we would do is just weigh them up, because I understand that they feel lighter, and some folks have said they're lighter. So I'm going to take this counterfeit 96 here, throw it on the digital scale, and it weighs 7.00 grams. And a legitimate one is 7.25, and I'll see if that's the same for these others. The 2005 comes in at about 7.25. So you can see that these are somewhat lighter. Now this one is 7.21. Maybe they got a little bit better on that one. Let's try this other one over here. 7.03. And the legit one here, if I can get it, 7.29. Let's just check and make sure that this is, yeah, that's absolutely a counterfeit one for sure. So there's maybe not some consistency, but in any case, it was definitely an interesting hunt, and maybe I shouldn't have put it out to the universe at the outset to say I'd be interested to see if we got counterfeits, because I definitely got counterfeits. I really hope you enjoyed this toonie hunt. You're watching my channel, CAD Roll Hunter. Please subscribe if you haven't already done so. Like the video, that would be really appreciated. Thank you for joining. Hope to see you again soon, and have a good day.